Hi everyone, it's Zach here with Media Cows. We're at the Microsoft booth for Gears of War 3 at PAX East. I'm with Chris from Microsoft. I'm going to talk a little bit about Gears of War 3. I guess I really want to start with the delay. It was supposed to come out in April 2011. What was really the reasoning behind that delay, pushing it back to the fall?
Yeah, it was completely a business decision. So when we looked at how Gears was shaping up, and we look at the landscape, and we look at the strategy of the business, it became apparent just before we moved that September is a much better time frame. We can have a much bigger impact by going in September. When you get closer to the holiday, just consumer interest is a little bit better.
So was there anything with polish, with Gears?
No, the game was great. I mean, the game would have been ready to go, and so with the extra time, we've really just we spent the whole time polishing. I mean, it wasn't like we were adding new features, and so we've just been polishing.
So what was there you guys have improved upon and made it look better and that kind of thing?
Yeah, and then it also allowed us to do this beta that we're going to do in April, which will allow us to stress test the new dedicated servers and a lot of the new modes and weapons and balance of the gameplay.
So really the state of the game is it's done, it's just being polished, and then you're going to take what you get from the beta.
Yeah, pretty much. We're just tweaking and tweaking and tweaking.
How is the story in Gears of War 3 compared to the previous games? How does it tie in?
Yeah, it's so this is the end of the trilogy of Delta Squad. So we do wrap up the story arc of Marcus and all of his friends there. The story in 3 is it's the best one yet. We've brought in Karen Travis to write the script for it, and she is so obsessed with all the details and just nailing it. It's just coming across really great. I mean, the storytelling is just really tight. You play the game, it's way more immersive than anything we've had in the past, or at least I think so. And it's turning out to be a good experience in terms of length, so it's longer than Gears 1 and Gears 2 everywhere as well.
Okay. How is, gamers being able to be attached to the secondary characters in the game? Is there some effort being put into that to really feel for them?
Yeah, I think that's something that Karen's definitely brought, is how she develops the characters, and so we've introduced. So Anya has a much bigger role. For example, she's now fighting, and so if you ever read the novels, there's all this kind of background between Anya and Marcus, and so that's sort of explored a bit. We introduce a new character, which is great, so you get a little of her background, and then of course you have the rest of Delta Squad with Dom and Cole and Baird, and one thing that's really cool is you're actually going to play as Cole through a couple of the missions, and Cole's one of the fan favorites, and so playing as him is pretty awesome.
So there's going to be 4-player co-op throughout the entire not single player anymore since it's co-op.
Campaign.
But it's the same. It's the same thing, the campaign.
Yep.
And I was just curious, how difficult was it to create a story where you can be switching between different characters and have it really connect with any gamer who's playing with any characters?
Yeah, I think the thing you find is that people have really kind of taken an affinity to a certain character, and so now that they'll be able to go on 4-player co-op and kind of play as that player, and they form their own little personal relationship, right? Like we don't have to do a lot of specific work to try to make that connection, because we're finding people are doing it on their own. They're finding personal sort of commonalities that they have personally between the character and the game, and so that's where you're seeing a lot of connection actually.
If you only have 3 people playing, AI takes over as the 4th character, and so are there going to be periods then in the game where 2 players split up and they go off on their own?
Yeah, you'll have two go to one branch, 2 go to another branch.
What's the split screen?
So two players split screen,
and then the other 2 online.
Yeah, another box.
What are the environments like in single player? A large variety of environments. What are we going to be seeing?
Yeah, you're all over the place. I mean, you start off on a boat, and then you're traveling through some of the landscape on Sarah that you've never been through before. You end up in some crazy places that we haven't talked about yet, where we tie off the story, and it's just unbelievably beautiful environments that the artists have spent a ton of time creating. I mean, they've really put their best work into this one, and Unreal Engine 3 with all the new graphical improvements we have into it, they're rendered better than ever before. I mean, it looks amazing. It looks fantastic.
Can you talk a little bit more about the work that's gone into the graphics in this? You're talking about the graphics engine. What extra effort has been to make it the best looking Gears? Gears obviously being a good looking franchise.
Yeah, it happens on a lot of fronts. So on the technical back end, what features go into the engine, and so ones that are really visible when you look at screenshots or video before the game comes out, you'll see a lot of light rays that kind of shined out from the sky, and the lighting's in some cases a lot softer in areas, which kind of gives it a much different feel than 1 and 2. And then the artists themselves who are out modeling and crafting and painting the worlds are just putting in that bit of extra effort, especially with the extra time we have, to make sure they look amazing. And they're really just spending a lot of time, and they look great.
Can you go through some of the new gameplay mechanics that will be in Gears of War 3?
Yeah, some stuff that we've showed. I mean, obviously there's a lot of new weapons, that are great. We have the new sawed-off shotgun, which is going to be it's a lot of fun if you played 1 and 2 and you're kind of into the shotgun. It's even more hardcore. We have a new Lancer, which is an old school Lancer. It's a little bit more powerful, but it has a big kick. But it also has a big knife on the end, so you can charge an opponent and kind of stab him on the end and impale him. The new Digger grenade launcher, which I think is going to be very, very popular. It shoots this little creature, burrows underground, and then he pops up like a bouncing Betty and explodes behind cover. And then beyond that, we'll have some stuff that we haven't talked about yet, so stay tuned in the summer with some really kind of neat new weapons. One thing that we talked about last E3, which seems like forever ago, I just love this. You have the ability to, we call it the bag and tag, and so if you meat shield a guy, hit up on the D-pad, you'll plant a grenade on his back and then kick him and it'll blow up. That's a lot of fun. When people discover that, it's pretty cool.
How about some of the new enemies? Explain some of the new enemies.
Yeah, so right away there's a whole new army that you're fighting against, the Lambent. So what's happened is the emulsion, the energy source of the world, it's kind of mutated the locusts that were there, and so they have the ability. Some of them will, when you shoot them, instead of dying, they like spawn arms or crazy heads, and there's a lot of different kind of mutations that they can take on, and it adds a whole new dynamic to the battlefield when you're fighting. And you might get a guy that instead of dying, all of a sudden he spawns these big arms that are shooting flame balls at you, and you have to like get the heck out of there. And then of course you have the locusts that are still in the game, and there's a whole new faction of the locusts. So after you sunk Jacinto in Gears 2, a lot of the locusts sort of ended up on their own, kind of separated, and so we call those the Savage, and they're just kind of on their own. They're kind of grittier, they're a little bit dirtier locusts, and they're all kind of fighting together. So the locusts fight the Lambent, the Lambent fight you, and you fight the locusts. So everyone's battling.
Right. With the audio in the game, I'm curious as to the process of getting the audio, the weapons, and all of that, all the crazy audio that's in Gears of War.
Yeah.
What work has really gone into?
That's just a lot of fun, and so it's a lot like a movie, right? You're out doing Foley work where you're trying to find, we'll pick an easy example. I need a rusty old truck, and so you go out and you try to find some really distinct truck that you want to record, and so it's not like going and picking out a Ford F-150 and saying, let's record this thing, pull the muffler off or something. We're trying to find like an old 1970 Chevy pickup that's all beat up and rusted, and that's what we want to record. We want to get something really authentic and unique that when people hear it, it doesn't sound like anything that they normally hear. And that carries through to how we do weapons and all that other kind of stuff. And then when you get into voice acting, it's a whole kind of different art. And I love it when we do locust recording, because it's a guy in the studio doing the locust voice, and then we do a bunch of effects on it to make it sound like a creature. And so that stuff's all pretty cool.
How about multiplayer? Some of the new game modes that you guys have, not Beast, not Horde, but just strict multiplayer, the new game modes.
Yeah, right away at the front, Team Deathmatch, back into Gears, and it's a lot of fun. It's by far my favorite mode in the game, and so it's got a bit of a Gears flavor on it, where each team starts with a certain number of respawns. So you die and you take one of your team's respawns, and it counts down to 0. The first team that gets to 0 loses. And so when each team runs out of respawns, it's basically last man alive is left. And so you get into these really cool dramatic moments where maybe one team has 3 guys left and the other team has 1, and so everybody's cheering on the one guy left to try to win and beat the other 3 guys.
Was that really the reasoning for creating that, the shared lives, to create those dramatic moments?
Yeah, to try to get that end. It's still, we didn't want to remove the whole idea of a team play, right? It's still team deathmatch, and so we found it's really cool when you get to that end. It really brings the team together, right? You're like really rooting for your one guy that's left, if you're even dead, and but still having the ability to respawn, so you don't die and just kind of sit there and wait. You might have had a short match, and so you get to play it for a while, play for a long time, and then you get down to just that last minute or two, where maybe you're watching and kind of cheering your team on, and so it's actually really cool.
Any other modes that are new?
Yeah, we've tweaked some of the ones that are there, and so in the beta we're going to show Team Deathmatch, which is new. King of the Hill is a new mode, which is a little bit like Annex, but we've tweaked it to make it better. And so you capture a point on the map and you hold it and you gain points and try to prevent the other guys from taking that point over. Capture the leader comes back, and those are all going to be in the beta, and then we'll talk about some of that other stuff later in the year.
What improvements have you guys made with the multiplayer to have it perform better, things things like that?
Yeah, the biggest thing is the technical back end. So adding dedicated servers. That is just a huge improvement. When you take away hosting a game on someone's local machine where they can manipulate their network connection before it gets to any of the clients and potentially cheat, that's gone, right? So everything goes to the dedicated server. The dedicated server sends that information out to all the clients, and it makes every game fair. It makes them fun. It makes them really fast. Lag is better. It's almost gone. And my favorite part about it is just everything's fair. So it's going to make it way more competitive, and people are just going to get way more into it.
Was that a lot of work to implement? Because not in Gears
for sure.
So it was just a lot of work.
Yeah,
and
it's a ton of work.
Wanted to step it up and make it the best multiplayer ever.
Yeah, and we're we've been crunching recently to make sure it's all ready for the beta. It goes, obviously you write a lot of game code to handle the dedicated servers. And then there's also, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of PCs that we have to deploy around the world. And so there's a whole strategy of going, where do we put these? What PC do we get? What do we want? Where do we put it? How many do we get? And then we have to write a tool to kind of administer all those different PCs, because somebody's got to do it, right? So.
What about the unlockables in multiplayer that you get when you're ranking up and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's probably one of the coolest. Also one of the coolest new additions. It's something that it's the grind. It's the treadmill when you play a game. You want to keep getting new things and new things.
Yep.
We added the leveling system in Gears 2 as one of the title updates, and it proved to be really popular. And so this is kind of taking it further. And so, you get 5 kills or 10 executions, whatever. You get a ribbon or a medal, and that kind of sticks with you. There's a lot. People take a lot of pride in earning all those medals. It's kind of like achievements, and it's pretty neat. And so some cool things that we're doing with the beta, that's obviously all in there, so we can test it and see how it works. But you also be able to earn some of those unlocks. So through that system, you unlock characters, different character skins. Also something we haven't done before. We have the ability to do weapon skins. So we did gold weapons in Gears 2, and that just was crazy popular. And so now we have the ability to do an infinite number of weapon skins, and some of them are including animated ones, which are really awesome. And so if you get into the beta, a lot of that stuff's going to be available. So the only way you're going to be able to get the Thrashball version of Cole, he's in his Thrashball uniform, wearing a helmet, is if you play the beta. We're going to have a gold Retro Lancer. That's a new Lancer. So the only way to get the gold one is to play in the beta. And if you participate and unlock it, then you'll unlock it in the full game as well when you get the full game. So
I want to talk now about Horde and any new additions that have been brought there with Horde.
Yeah, we'll talk a lot more about Horde this summer.
Okay.
We'll get really into the details. We put a lot of work into it. It was a crazy popular mode in Gears 2. It was one that a lot of other games followed, because it was so popular. And so we look at it as how do we set the next trend? How do we take this to another level so everyone copies this?
So that's the goal. So expect new things. It's not announced yet, but there will be new features.
Yeah, wait for June.
Okay, Beast Mode, a new mode there. Talk a little bit about Beast Mode.
Yeah, Beast Mode's really cool, and so this is kind of building off of the popularity of Horde in a way. I don't want to give the impression that that's the opposite of Horde. And so one of the goals up front was so you play campaign, you play co-op campaign, you play competitive multiplayer, you play Horde. Those are all pretty long experiences. You might sit down for a few hours. And so with Beast, we talked a lot about how do we make an experience that maybe you can sit down for an hour and play through and really enjoy. And so the design goals, are pretty challenging sometimes when you do that, especially when it's so different. And so, first of all, you want to make it compelling for 1 hour, but because it's a short mode, then you got to look at, okay, how do we make it replayable, right? So you got to look at all those kinds of things. And so right away, you get to play with all the different locusts that you've seen in the game, much more than you get to play when you're in competitive multiplayer and you just play some of the standard locusts. And they all kind of have their special abilities. And there's just, when you get to be the berserker and just run around and do big smashes and blow things up and literally just crush people, it is just awesomely satisfying. So I think people are really going to dig that. And I think it really plays to, I'm going to eat dinner in an hour and a half. I want to waste some time. I can sit down and play Beast and get through the whole thing and have an awesome time with maybe 4 of my friends. So
how does it work to unlock the new locusts? So you start with a limited number of locusts, correct? And then you get more advanced.
Yeah, that's stuff we're still tweaking. And so we look at, essentially to break it down to the bottom, most basic layer, there's a currency. And so you earn currency, right now it's called tokens. And so you earn tokens by killing enemies and destroying their structures. And then as you earn enough tokens, it unlocks the next tier of guys that you can go and buy and use. And so each tier is a bit more powerful.
will you be able to kill Marcus Phoenix?
Yeah, Marcus is, so one of the cool things is the heroes of the game, Marcus, Dom, Cole, all those guys, they will appear in certain, as you get up the waves, so you kind of go through waves similar to Horde. And as you get to some of the later ones, that's when the heroes start to show up, and they're tough. So Marcus comes in.
And so it's only one. It's only one Marcus.
Yeah,
it's not
that's
multiple
right.
Marcus,
Yeah.
and he's just the hero, the tough guy.
Yeah, and sometimes it's funny. So everyone loves Cole, but Cole, when you play against Cole and Beast, you just hate him because he's constantly screaming at you, firing his boom shot, and killing you with one kill or one shot. Oh man, you just get so mad at him because he's yelling at you and stuff.
So the beta's going to be coming out soon, correct? What are your guys' expectations there for improvement with the multiplayer? Because I know that you guys want to focus on making the multiplayer absolutely, well, maybe not perfect, because it's hard to get it perfect, but to make it superb and working great. No bugs and stuff like that. What are your guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's exactly our expectation. Let's go in. Let's stress test the servers. That's not something we can do in a testing environment. So let's make sure they hold up and figure out what kind of bugs are causing maybe certain ones to drop down, or are people matchmaking properly, getting into the right games. And by doing that early, it gives us the ability to catch it and then fix it for the retail game when it launches in September. And so that's first and foremost one of the big things. And then from there it gets into gameplay balance. Are the maps that we're testing really good? Are the weapons in the right spots? Are we spawning the right weapons? That's all stuff we can change dynamically, so we can test it really quick. And then we got a lot of the new weapons in there that we can test and see how people like them, and the unlocking system. And so
how about the weapon balancing right now in the multiplayer? How is it?
It's really good right now. It's for every good there's a bad in our design, right? So the new Retro Lancer, like I said, it's a little bit more powerful. It has this big wicked kick, so it's a little bit harder to control, and so that's something you have to get around. And then the sawed-off shotgun, more powerful than the Nasher, but you have to get a lot closer. Its range isn't as good, and it has a really bad reload time. So if you're going to use that, you got to be ready for it, and you have to be pretty skilled. And so those are things. Balancing all that stuff can be tricky, but right now I think we're in a really good spot. So when we get into the beta, we can see how people like it. We can always tweak that stuff.
How about the number of maps that we're going to expect for them? And I guess for Horde and Beast, different maps for them.
Yeah, so all of our maps are always playable in all of our multiplayer modes, Horde, Beast, and all the competitive modes, which is great. We're still tweaking what we're going to ship. We haven't really settled on a number for the beta. We're going with 4. So we picked 2. The teams picked 2. And then we had 4 more that we had the community vote on, and so they picked 2 more out of that 4. And so we'll test those 4, and then while we're testing those, we're obviously going to try to finalize the set that we'll ship with.
Yeah, are you looking at DLC or map pack add-ons?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're looking at that. What that strategy is. They're absolutely DLC.
Okay. The final question is, Epic saying that it's the final game in the trilogy. Are we going to be expecting Gears of War prequel or something like that doesn't follow Marcus Phoenix, or a totally new IP in the future?
We're talking about all that right now, and so we haven't really made any final decisions. I think everybody loves Gears, and they'd love to see another Gears. We are closing out the story of Marcus and all those guys. And then we'll talk about what other directions can we go with the universe and the property. And those are definitely conversations that are happening right now.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. Yeah. That's Gears of War 3 at PAX East.
Thank you.
We're done.